Well, this was a little bit of a surprise, though I suppose it really shouldn't be, considering Guild Wars 2 makes money off of the gym store, but we just got some new Halloween mounts this last couple weeks. These mounts are Mad King's Realm mounts. Going off of the video I made last year over the very first edition of mount skins in Shadow of the Mad King 2017, I'm going to be reviewing these mounts as well. In another video, I will be doing a side-by-side comparison of the two Halloween mount skins for each mount from 2017 to 2018. Without further delay, let's begin. First, let's go over the overall theme that these mounts are trying to come across this year. When I first saw the mounts theme of this year's Halloween skin, I actually laughed. I thought the wings looked ridiculous. However, the more I played around with the dyes on the mounts for the two characters I actually play on, the more I realized what the theme was based on, and it was a combination between the Mad King and, well, bats. Now for the dyes of the mounts. I loved seeing that the 4 option returned this year with the Halloween mounts, as happened with last year's Halloween mounts being the first option that we ever had to dye some of those mounts multiple colors. It was very amazing to see that. The 4 options that we have this year is the base skin of the mount, the Grin Glow, as I like to call it, the smoke that comes out around the mount's entire body, and the bats. They can be as wild as you want to in a combo, or stick to the theme of your character. First up is the Raptor. With the Raptor, there's a sense of the scales starting to vanish the closer to the end of an appendage you get, making the legs and tail look very, very eerie, with the scales floating in midair in the pattern and shape of the Raptor. The feet and hands actually do forego a little bit of the scaled look the closer you get to the claws, and actually favor a more bone structure look, which is even eerier. The Raptor's jack-o'-lantern grin is meant to mirror that of the Mad King's in appearance. However, it takes on a little bit more of a creepy, eerie look with the fact that it actually matches the skull of a raptor, meaning you see the teeth kind of floating through the grin, and it is just amazing and really cool to see. I have to say, out of all of the mounts this year, the wings on the Raptor look a little bit ridiculous. They kind of stick out weirdly. They don't really suit the Raptor as much as they do, say, another type of mount. However, this is not a bad thing, because one of the coolest things that they added with the addition of the wings is the way the Raptor sounds when it is leaping through the air. As you leap forward on the Raptor, you actually hear the wind rushing around the wings. It is so cool to hear, and I think that makes up for how funny the wings look on the Raptor entirely. The Springer takes on an almost haunted look with the combination of the grin it was given and the wings. The wings add far more to the Springer than they did to the Raptor, making it appear truly like a maddened version of a vampiric Springer, or just a mad bat bunny, if you would rather call it a mad bat bunny. The wing movement on the Springer makes more sense with the faster hops we are given, as well as when it is leaping into the air, it actually looks like it's trying to flap to get that height, rather than it actually just springing up. For the Springer, we actually have a very different grin from the Raptor in appearance. The Springer doesn't have the sense of it being a grin that is matching the very skull of the Springer. It is more eerie in the fact that it curls up towards the eyes and around them, and it looks very creepy and very reminiscent of the Mad King's own grin on his pumpkin head. And also the fact that the jagged look actually comes from where the nose is coming in to meet the grin. It forms a little bit more of an eerie look, especially for an animal that does not have jagged teeth. Like with the Raptor, near the arms, legs, and underbelly, the solidness of the design vanishes and starts to be broken up to make it feel like the Springer is either dissolving or being broken up by madness. However, the effect doesn't follow into the tail like it did with the Raptor, which is kind of a shame, because it would have been really cool to see that little fluffy tail be a combination of fur and just being broken up to appear almost shadowy. When I was playing around with the Springer, one of the coolest things that I actually came across was when I decided to go into the somersaulting attack, it actually, when it landed, had not only the smoke spray out, but bats flying everywhere. It was hilarious to see and actually added quite a bit of detail. Now on to the Skimmer. The Skimmer sees a different design as it already had wing-like appendages, and thus the shadowy wings that were added onto the Raptor and the Springer ended up just added onto those. It does work a little bit better with the Skimmer, however, because the Skimmer has such a little bit more of a basic design compared to them, it does make it feel like it is lacking something. However, I don't know how they would have made dual wings actually work with the poor guy, especially if they're trying to stick a little bit closer to the base mount like they normally do with the Halloween skins. The only part of the poor Skimmer that has the dissolving into shadow-esque look is its tail. It's a little bit of a shame to see this. I suppose the wings kind of have some of it, but all the wings had that. And I would have liked to see it a little bit more, especially since they took off the tentacles that the Skimmer has, and I would have loved to maybe see shattered tentacles coming up whenever I fly. It would have been really, really cool. However, they took out those and just left the Skimmer with only its tail being broken up into shadow. I do admit one of the things that I absolutely love about this new mount skin for the Skimmer is when you are actually gliding and using your mount ability, you hear bats in the background. Not just the wind rushing around you, but you actually hear the bats. It is really cool. Sadly, thus far, I must say the Skimmer is the most underwhelming of the mounts. The design is slightly altered from being less creepy because of its grin. If you guys hadn't noticed, but when looking at the Skimmer in the front, it has a big hole that's glowing in its mouth and a little bit creepier eyes than normal, but it is nowhere near as creepy as, say, the Mad Bat Bunny looks. I also wish they had kept the little side tentacles that come up. One of my favorite things about the Skimmer when I'm playing around with the Skimmer mount skins is having a different design for those. On to the Sand Jackal. Out of all of the mounts, the Jackal was the first one I saw in the preview of the gym store when I went to check out the new set. The wings are still a bit awkward on the Jackal, but it doesn't take away from the overall appearance. But it is the grin which stands out the most on the Jackal. The toothy, curling grin which almost goes up into its glowing ears and curves around those very creepy eyes. It feels as if they took the creepy factor from the Springer and combined it with the wicked from the Raptor. It is perfect. One of the matters I was the most thrilled to see was the movement skill of the Jackal. When you teleport as the Jackal, leaping forward through the air, you leave behind this huge trail of smoke, which is in the dyes that you picked, with bats bursting out to follow the Jackal. It is really cool looking. Not only that, but like with the Skimmer, you get the sound of the bats as you're moving through the air. It is the sight of the smoke and the flashing lights that is just so beautiful to see. The bats flying out just add to it. Perhaps one of the most underwhelming parts of the Jackal this year was the fact that, like with all the other mounts thus far, its underbelly and legs and tail start to look like it's turning into shadow. It was apparent on the Jackal, but compared to everything else that the Jackal had, I was not as thrilled at seeing that as I was seeing the smoke and the bats bursting out when you teleport. Now for the Griffin. Oh boy, the Griffin. If I thought the grin was perfect on the Jackal, then I was in for a real surprise when I jumped onto the Griffin for the first time. They somehow managed to capture the grin on the Griffin, which didn't destroy the bird-like appearance. It curls up and almost into the eyes of the Griffin, adding the same maddened appearance which worked so well on the Springer and the Jackal alike. They also added the same glow to the orb around the Griffin's neck that you see in the eyes and in the grin. Out of all of the mounts thus far, the wings worked the best on the Griffin. Granted, the Griffin is built with wings in mind, but hey. The shattered appearance of the feathers down to the way that the smoke interacted with the tips of the feathers was perfect for the Griffin. It added this weird glowing effect to the tips that just really stood out on the Griffin. Also, the massive size of the wings compared to the others was just really cool. The way that they handled the broken up effect for the feet looked the same as the others, except for maybe the Raptor. On the tail of the Griffin, they added a feathered appearance, which almost mirrored the scaled one that they had on the Raptor. A matter I find both cool and kind of annoying at times is when you're flying and you have your camera angled just so, the bats fly out behind you and kind of slam into your face. The particle effect I still adore on mounts. I really enjoy seeing things flying from the mounts as you're running, or in this case flying. It's either I had my camera angle incorrect at times, or the fact that the wingspan does take up quite a bit of your screen compared to the other sizes of the mounts, that ended up having the bats flying into my face at times and caused it to be slightly annoying. I would not take away those bats, because even if it is slightly annoying, it is still really cool to have a particle effect. Perhaps the largest disappointment of the reskins for this year is the fact the roller Beetle did not actually get one. I was looking forward to seeing what could be done with the Beetle. Now we have it. It both does and doesn't make sense for why we didn't get a reskin. On one hand, if you missed the Living World update, you have to buy it on the gym store, then complete the achievement to get the roller Beetle. On the other, there are reskins available already for the mount. Perhaps ArenaNet will put a holiday skin one day for the Beetle. I would love to see Petey get his day to shine with a fancy Halloween-based skin. Overall, the mounts added this year are some of the best holiday mounts so far. I love seeing the new batch hit the gem store this year and was happy to see if I didn't want to use last year's mount skins on some of my characters, I still had an option if I wanted to be festive. The wings did fall short on some of the mounts they were added to, but I wouldn't remove them from the mount as what the team is going for would then be lost. The Skimmer was also rather underwhelming for me, but it was to be expected with what they removed from it and what was not added to it. There wasn't really much which could be done to give the Skimmer an epic grin without losing what makes the Skimmer a unique mount. I love all of the new designs, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they end up doing this coming Winter's Day, as well as Halloween of 2019. Thank you all for watching. I shall see you in the next video.